Twisted Christian. I'm going to come to you guys today about the Mexican peso. And one of the things that I was thinking is I've just been doing the research on the new USMCA deal, listening to some other videos. One of the things that I was listening to on Currency 365 was did an RV in any way tied to salaries? So I'm doing the research, and everybody knows that the USMCA went into effect on July the 1st. And there's a lot of provisions in there that a lot of people don't see what's going to be good for the United States and for Mexico. And is it going to force them to revalue their currency? That's what I'm getting ready to get into. So we know that that took place on the 1st of July of this year, right? There was a lot of resistance to this deal, and it finally got through. And so here we are today. Now, one of the things that I wanted to mention, because this deals directly with, and we've all talked about this, I've said it many times before, Trump on currencies, we will all be soon at a level playing field. So in the article, they mostly go into Asian countries and China, but this affects all the countries that the United States is having dealings with. So you had Canada, Mexico, and the United States signing this deal. And it's a good start, especially for the Mexican government and for the Mexican people, because it's the beginning of strengthening their own economy. So how is this going to happen? If we look at the rate of the peso versus the USD, how in the world is Mexico going to be able to pay what they're supposed to pay to be part of this deal? Now, one of the things in this deal, and I think this is very important, and this deals with self-preservation, self-manufacturing, getting currencies to where they're supposed to be, giving living wages to where they're supposed to be, concerning at least this part of the industry, the auto industry. Okay, and under this deal, automobiles must have 75% of their components manufactured in Mexico, the U.S., or Canada to qualify for zero tariffs. Right? And 45% of automobile parts must be made by workers who earn at least $16 an hour USD by 2023. Now, last year, Mexico did pass a whole bunch of new labor laws, right? Giving them access to unions and strengthening employees in the workplace. So there's some other things in this as well. But one of the things that I wanted to focus on was that some of these workers need to be earning $16 an hour by 2023. All right, so part of the plan is if all the automobiles between the three countries that come in, 75% of the components have to be manufactured in one of these three countries. All that does is strengthens Mexico. And a lot of people don't see that because this is the beginning of getting them to living wages. And we wouldn't have to have a border wall if we could get the Mexican economy to where it needs to be. And also there's a lot of corruption in the government and that they're working on that. But you got to start somewhere. So this is actually a really good deal in the long term that's going to benefit the Mexican people, which means that those type of jobs, those companies that are paying $16 an hour to work at those plants, those are going to be jobs that everybody's going to want, and you don't have to travel United States to make money and then send it back to Mexico if you can earn your living wages right there. But this is a start to get the Mexican economy to where it needs to be. Now, one of the interesting things that I did see coming out of this, because they say, well, they could just take the tariff and just pay the tariffs. Well, that's not necessarily the case. It says right here in this, and this is after this came out July 5th, Japanese car makers opt to triple Mexican pay rather than move to the United States. So in this article, they kind of, downgrade, the President of the United States and how this was supposed to bring more jobs to the United States, which it will, because if you're keeping people from having to come over so much and they can create their own wealth there, that means that there's going to be more jobs available here in the United States because you're paying workers there a living wage. So apparently, this Japanese automaker, okay, auto component maker, PolioX, will raise the hourly wage at its Mexico plant to $16 an hour within the year, and is also installing robots to mitigate rising labor costs. Okay, so they're going to raise, so they will have robots, as most companies in manufacturing. Eventually, they have less and less employees, but then you have to have people to be able to fix those machines when they go down. But just doing some research and looking at the average wage in Mexico, this is going to be a big boost. And how is Mexico going to be able to really, in the long term, the businesses and everything else, how are they going to pay for this? So if automakers in Mexico they're not waiting until, obviously this one is not waiting until 2023 to boost their wages. But something is going to happen. Now first I want to look at if in Mexico, Canada, and the United States, if a lot of these plants have to be at a $16 an hour minimum wage, it's going to be very expensive for Mexico to get to that point, because that's a lot. So when I look at the United States dollar versus Canada, so you see the percentage for one American dollar, it's $1.35 CAD. Now the Mexican peso, for every peso, it's 6 Canadian cents. And for every peso, it's 4 cents. So you can see here that the Canadian dollar and the United States dollar are closer together as far as being on that even playing field. And what if that in order to truly comply with this, the rate is going to have to be closer to what the Canadian and US dollar are. So that means that they're going to have to change their value. Now, whether that has to do with a gold-backed standard, because even if you do add a gold-backed standard, the United States has a lot more gold. So I just want to pull this up here. So I look at the world official gold holdings for July 2020. Right, and I can look down and I go down to Mexico. They're 32 on the list. Right, and it's 3.4% of their gold is only 3.4% of their reserves. There's nothing has changed from last month. They still have the same amount of gold as they did for last month. So how they will be able to achieve an RV, whether it's tied to gold or not, or maybe they just raise their value, because in order to comply with this, in order to make it more equal and more on an even playing field, they're going to have to change their rate. And I don't know if it's going to be a 1-to-1-to-1, or it'll be very close, maybe within 5 to 10 cents of each other. When you think about it, people talk about the devaluation of the dollar, right? So if the United States devalues and gets more in line with the Canadian dollar, and then the Mexican peso will have to change in value, it'll go up in value, so it'll get closer to the even playing field. But in this case, the Japanese, instead of they just went ahead, they tripled their pay to get into compliance. So that's absolutely insane. So some of those people, if they tripled their pay, $16 an hour, well, that's $5.33 per hour. That's how much they were making, and now their pay is tripled. That's going to be a big boost. So whoever works at this plant, whoever works at any of these plants under this company, all their pay is about to be boosted. See, Japan would, instead of trying to move and shut down the factories and move it all to the United States, really it's really cheaper, especially since they have built some new plants over there. So it's not really worth to go ahead and shut down and move it. It's just better just to go ahead and pay the employees, which they are doing right now. So that is huge. But I think in the long term, when you look at outside of the auto industry, these people are getting pay raises. And so with all the new laws that Mexico passed, it's going to strengthen their minimum wage requirements. They've done that. So Mexico has strengthened rules and regulations concerning employees, and in some regions they've raised the wages. So this is very good. That means that, first of all, Mexico will become more self-sufficient, and they will be able to have more jobs and be more self-sustaining. And I think that's where we're going here, especially here in the United States, where we're becoming more self-sufficient, and that's what Iraq needs to do, is to become more self-sufficient. in putting all the currencies on an even playing field so we can actually see a revaluation of the Mexican peso. Now, if I lived in Mexico and I heard this information, and it's very possible that they're going to raise the value from 4 cents per peso to say 90 cents per peso, that's a big jump. It's not as big as a jump as the Iraqi dinar, but there's still going to be money to be made. I just wanted to point that out to you about the Mexican peso, whether or not it's going to revalue, or they're going to, in order to maintain these wages, eventually they're going to have to change their value. And is it tied into the global currency reset? Is it tied into a gold-backed system? Because we don't really know how all this is going to be implemented, because we're still looking for things to happen before any type of global reset. And the other thing I do want to point out is that the peso is, I have it here on Google, and I have it maxed out here. And at least since 2004, the peso is at its lowest point in the last 17 years. Last 17 years, or 16 years, Mexican peso is at its lowest point. So this might be a good time to get in, because you know what? Some of those currencies are rare. Right, we're finding out Vietnamese dong, dinar, and soon you're gonna start to find other ones that you're not going to be able to get any. Now the peso should be large in demand, and I'm not telling you to go out and buy some, but for those of you who are listening in Mexico, I would be holding on to every peso I have. I would be holding on to it like as if it was the Iraqi dinar. That's the way I look at it. So are we going to see a huge increase? That would be a huge jump, and I really think that if they really want to be on an even playing field, and you're going to give Mexico a real chance to survive and to grow into a great economy and to be self-sufficient, you're going to have to raise the value. And raising the value is going to be more in line with what's going on with the USMCA. Like I said, if the dollar devalues, gets more in line with Canada, than what's going to happen with Mexico. So we hear a lot of talk about an RV. Is it tied into wages? Because it seems like with this deal, it's going to be pushing Mexico to try to do something with their currency. So you guys tell me what you think. Tell me, do you think it's a good investment? Can you see this? How when it comes to the USMCA, can you see the Mexican peso going from like 4 cents to 90 cents? Leave a comment below. And also, too, I'd like to thank you guys for your support. I had been in the hospital for a total of 4 days dealing with high blood pressure. So I'm getting back to making videos. And the other thing that I'm doing is that I'm trying to focus on more important news. Because for me, it was very stressful trying to find time to listen to daily news. So now I am at a point to where I think we're really at a point to where we just need to really share the most important information, because I can't. It's back in 2011, back in 2014 and 18, I was paying attention to a lot of the daily news of Iraq, and it was just very frustrating knowing that this thing should have gone already, but thank goodness in a way it hasn't, because most of us would probably be broke. You never know what kind of investments you would have made that have fallen dramatically. But that's what I'm trying to focus on. If I see something that's very important, because we don't know the date of the RV, and there are many things I have said in the past that still have to happen that we're not there yet. We're close. It seems like we're close, but things haven't got to that point to where things seem at their worst. And some people argue it's a Middle Eastern thing. Is it a worldwide thing? I think it's a mixture of both. You have to remember that there's only 3 months left in the election, and they will do everything they can to tear this economy down. You guys already know that the Feds are propping this market up greatly, and if the Feds were not propping this market up, it would have already went down. But see, they haven't learned their lesson that that's not going to work, especially in the economy that we have today. They're talking about reopening and then closing states down, and and then what's going to happen when small businesses do open back up? Walmart's done very, very well So what's going to happen? Well, not as many people are going to be going to Walmart. Some people are going to be going to other stores and shop at other places that are currently closed. So for those who are in Mexico or you're investing in the Mexican peso, it's at its lowest point. If it was me and I lived in Mexico, I'd be hoarding them, just like if it was the Iraq dinar. Because if this does change in value, which I am going to say that it's going to, there being the pressure starting from July 1st has already been put on them. Mexico's already passed laws, additional laws, to help bolster the USMCA. They got to figure out in the long term how they're going to really pay for all that. So tell me, guys, what you think. Thank you guys for listening. And with that being said, Twisted Christian out.